Forgot to take the banner off. Hello and welcome to Hold Up, a movie podcast. Episode 4? Are we on 4?
Or
is it 5?
Yes, 4.
Yeah, episode
No, it's 4. Episode 4. Yeah, we can count.
I am your host, Davan, and with me, as always, World Mind. What's up, buddy?
Oh, staying warm, staying cozy, getting ready for those holidays.
I got the tree and the hat. I'm ready to go.
I got my lights up. I'm rocking it.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well, after visiting dystopian worlds last episode, now we shine a spotlight on the realistic possibility that we are indeed creating a dystopia on our fragile and beautiful planet. We explore a terrifying world of a runaway greenhouse effect as the Earth slowly becomes a world not unlike Venus. And then we enter the rainforest and examine what we all lose when we ignore the biodiversity crisis and the effects of deforestation for the sake of profit. And not profit for a very few, let's say. And finally, we see the inner turmoil and conflicts of the modern environmentalist, kind of. Tonight's theme is environmentalism. Yeah.
Getting back to the greens. The earthy greens.
I needed to see something pretty after all that dystopia. And whatever character.
Did we, though? I mean, I guess we did in our second film tonight, but the other ones, they were...
Yeah. Okay, maybe just...
Also, I just realized I
picked that one just because it's the movie that relaxes me the most in the world. So I needed a breather, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we should get into getting caught up on. Yeah, let's just jump into Act 1. I think we have something here set up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Soylent Green. Now, interesting about this movie is it's the year 2022 in that movie. So we did better. We did better than some projections. I mean, things aren't necessarily the best, but
their vision of 2022 was not too far off. But yeah, let's check out this.
Not as far off as I would have liked. Yeah, so it's from 1973, starring Charlton Heston, Lee Taylor.
The secret of Soylent Green. New York City in the year 2022. Nothing runs anymore. Nothing works. But the people are the same. And the people will do anything to get what they need.
This is the police.
What they need most is Soylent Green.
All right, so I don't know if we entirely want to watch all of this or not, because it is a forever trailer. But
yeah, that's a good clip. We can leave it there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good intro. It's the year 2022, and it's a runaway greenhouse effect, which is what supposedly happened to Venus. So it's thought that Venus was once a world much more like our own Earth, potentially livable, that type of thing. And it got a runaway greenhouse effect. And that's what happens. So, and this is when, the idea of the greenhouse effect and the ozone layer and all that kind of stuff was people were just becoming aware of this back in 1973. So this is very topical stuff they're tackling here. And it's starring Charlton Heston, Lee Taylor Young, Joseph Sisko himself, Brock Peters, and Edward G. Robinson, directed by Richard Fleischer. So, Murphy, any quick thoughts before I get into the plot synopsis?
Quick thoughts about Soylent Green. It was honestly, my quickest thought is I wish I didn't know the end of this movie before actually seeing it. I feel like that would have made it a lot more enjoyable movie because I was having a good time with it. But knowing the ultimate, like what Soylent Green is, it was just like, well,
The problem is that
it
is
felt
something that has become everyone almost, even if they don't know of the movie, even they've heard that before. It's kind of entered the consciousness and of just general society that Soylent Green. I'm not even gonna say it yet, but
yeah.
it's a very one of the it's a hugely famous movie moment. The end of this movie, and it ends quick, like a lot of our '70s movies do. In the '70s, they just end the movie so far.
It's like they couldn't come up with a solid ending, so they're just like, we're just gonna wrap this up.
Cut
So yeah,
and cut.
let's get into your explanation, and it should be warned, folks, that we tend to get into spoilers on this podcast. So after
Oh,
this
yeah.
point, if we start slipping up on movies that are older than some people probably listening to this, it's on you. So here's your moment.
That's what we do here at this podcast, so it's best to either not care or watch the movies along with us, even better. You have 2 weeks to do so, it's not bad. And we always announce it ahead of time. So, alright, let's go Soylent Greening. So, yep, it's the year 2022, and like I said, there's the runaway greenhouse effect. And this movie takes place in New York, and which now houses 40 million people. And it's not unlike another Star Trek reference. Oh crap, I can't remember the name of the episode now, which is horrible. I'll think of it. But the episode where Cisco and Bashir go back and they're in the sanctuary districts, where all the housing is just
Oh
people on
yeah,
top of
it's like in the
people, and
down in Chicago, I think it was.
no, I think it's off of San Francisco, as a lot of Star Trek things tend to be. Um,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, Things Past. No, not Things Past. That's a different one. I'll think of it. I can't believe I can't remember the name of
I
that.
briefly remember this episode. Yes.
But it's visually, that's what it reminded me of a lot. Which I didn't mind because I love that episode. So, and it's just people on top of people. It's really like
Dude,
striking. A lot of the visuals they do in this, like it's because it feels
and-
real, something that could happen, but it's just human abject misery.
well, when they say, in the year 2022, New York City's population is 44
40
million
million.
people, it's like, okay,
That's just
how off are they? Turns out they're a bit off. The current populace of New York is about 8.4 million people.
I'm pretty
So,
sure New York would look a lot different with 44 million people.
well,
Um,
compare from what this movie was painting the picture. I would say, yeah. Honestly, the most haunting scene, really, for me in this film, because like that's what I was enjoying about it, were these progressively haunting scenes of like a dystopian, overpopulist, like it was like Escape
bulldozers,
from New
like
York, but so the bulldozer scene.
this is insane.
Oh god.
Let me see if I can pop up a picture here quick. I might have a that doesn't jump too far ahead of me. So here's like, no wait, that's the bulldozers. I don't want to show. Oh, you know what? I'm
It's
just gonna
during
show
the
the bulldozers.
riot scenes. Yeah.
But like the
There's just
bulldozers just
scooping
come
people
and
up.
pick up and dump them in the back like a garbage truck. It's freaking crazy.
Yeah.
So here
They're
they
called
are, like they're
there's a,
getting
like
their Soylent.
they said the
So
shovels are
there's
coming or the scoops are coming.
yeah, the scoops. We're calling in the scoops. Yeah, which you think is just like some sort of squad or something, but nope, they meant scoops. So basically, everyone they'll get the odd food item here and there, and it's incredibly expensive. Like if you find out that the rich people still do okay as far as having fridges full of food and hot water and stuff, but of that 44 million, almost 44 million of them basically just eat Soylent, which there's two kinds. There's yellow Soylent and red Soylent, and which they just look like plastic wafers essentially, but sometimes they'll do crumbs or powders, like they'll try to just make it as different
They,
as they can.
they
But
seem more like crackers, really, like little
yeah,
like biscuits, if you will. Apparently, Soylent, is a combination of the word soybean and lentils. So that's what they're supposed to be.
Oh, interesting. Because they
Yeah.
do say at least one of them, I think Soylent Red, is made of they think it's made of vegetables and vegetable proteins. In the yellow one,
Well, I
no, in the
mean,
Soylent Green, they tell everyone is made out of plankton, that they're harvesting plankton from the oceans. But nobody gets to see
yeah,
this. This is the thing. So everyone has to live in the cities. So you imagine that's how it got to 44 million. Everyone in all the surrounding rural areas were forced to move into the city because they say they have to reserve and
it's
protect
just too
all
hot.
arable land. Well, and
Yeah,
it's too hot, but also any good land that's left, no one's allowed to even see it because they say that's where we grow the little food that we do have and that sort of thing. And
yeah.
the boats, no one's ever seen these plankton boats, but they just assume they exist because they're told they are by the Soylent Company. So they have a new green wafer they think is made out of plankton. Um, and then we meet up with Detective Frank Thorne, played by Charlton Heston. And he's pretty good in this. Honestly don't always find Charlton Heston's acting the strongest. And for me, this movie sort of starts off like that too. I'm not buying into on him too much. Um, but by the end, he delivers some pretty good stuff. I think pretty good performance all in all. I would say.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah,
lives with his
he really
buddy.
holds the movie together.
Yeah, he does. Um, and he lives with his buddy, an older fella who remembers before the world went to shit, and most people don't. Charlton Heston can't even really conceive, which comes up later, of what Saul's talking about, and he just sort of laughs at him all the time. Saul's like, "Oh, but you wouldn't believe how food used to be, and the things we could see, and forests, and all this good stuff." But yeah, and everyone's sweaty, so that makes it look dirty too because of the temperatures. Everything's hot, so everyone's always sweaty and stinky, and there's no hot showers. And everyone's on top of each other. God, it must smell bad. It is not
Hmm.
nice. But Saul, his buddy, is a police analyst, and he figures things out for Thorne because Thorne's a detective, but Saul's working on his own theories too about the Soylent Company and other things. Um, and he has a library of a lot of books, and Thorne will bring him books. And then he goes to this big library called the Exchange, which is an interesting place where other like-minded kind of intellectuals like him are trying to work together to figure out things in the world. And
I would say,
there's a
I
lot going
really is
on.
it like-minded intellectuals? I thought they were just other old people that just happen to know a few things.
Well, they all read all these books in this library. You'd have to assume they're the most well read people in New York. Like
Yeah.
Saul and those four, they're the only ones that really have access to books. There's
Yeah.
Saul there. Jumping ahead to he's my favorite in this movie. He's fantastic, Edward G. Robinson, and this is the last movie he ever was in.
Yeah, I got some movie morsels about that, in
Oh,
fact.
I'm stealing your
Uh,
morsels. My bad.
well, no, it's
So they're
it's
in.
not entirely. You're just putting some foreshadowing, so it's quite all right.
mm, So they're investigating a murder of William R. Simonson, who's a rich guy who works for uh, the Soylent Company. Um, and they're and that he meets his bodyguard Tab and also his escort Cheryl. So it's also a very dystopian world for women in this world, and this is the one thing I didn't really like about the movie. How
Dude, I
there's
was
that
not a
element.
fan of the furniture talk.
No,
Like,
no, no. So that's the downside of the movie. It was a movie of its time in that way.
I
Uh,
think they actually bring it up here at one point in the trailer.
oh, did I?
Um,
I saw crying.
dude, the
But,
hitman
The
going
cops are
around
so
popping people.
crooked. Whenever they walk into somebody's house to talk to them about an investigation or anything, they just rob them blind right in front of them. They'll just pick up what they want and leave with it, and
Yeah.
Like even this
The
girl Cheryl,
scoops.
she's like, oh, stay here. Not even Cheryl, maybe it was a different girl. She's just like, stay here with me, and I'll make sure you're glad you did. And he's just like, I don't got time for that. He's just like, if I wanted it, I'd ask for it. He's just like, I just come into these places and take what I want, you know. So the cops are horrible. Like they for the first half of the movie, he's not like a good guy or anything. It's only after he starts to
Yeah,
take.
well, he's a detective himself. He's just like it's clearly
Yeah,
all the cops are just like selfish as fuck.
yeah.
Captain,
Like,
Yeah. There's Brock
here
Peters.
now.
That's his captain.
officially,
Okay.
she's furniture. She comes with the apartment. She
Oh
belongs to
yeah,
the tenant.
How many
yeah.
times you been in trouble with
They
the
call
police,
it
Cheryl?
furniture. It's friggin' horrible.
Never.
So
Captain
it
Hatcher.
took me out of the movie.
First, he wanted this case solved.
Simonson. What do you say? It was an assassination.
Now, he just wants it
Who
closed.
bought you? High and hot, and they want this case closed permanently. Their way. Now you sign this. You sign it.
Don't refuse. Just do what you have to do.
Worst hitman ever. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like this
So
whole
they go with the apartment. Like she's like just attached
well,
to
yeah.
that apartment.
Apparently,
So,
that's the rich society in this 2022 future alternate universe is there's all these apartments that come with their own sex workers that are just labeled as furniture. Everybody calls
it,
them furniture, and they're supposed to do
yeah.
whatever. So like all these apartments just have one,
So
and that's kind of
took me out of the
seemed to be
movie.
like a
Yeah, go
you
ahead.
know what? That was a consistent theme through all three of the movies I found was the just like forced innuendo of sexual like interactions and stuff like that
There is
throughout all three.
none of
They all
that
three
in
of them
Medicine
took it.
Man. You wash your mouth.
I disagree, sir. I disagree.
No.
I've got some words for Medicine Man that aren't entirely favorable, but we'll get to that in good time.
Well,
So yeah,
so Thorne gives Roth but yeah, so that part's terrible. But like they kind of drop that a bit in the second half of the movie and so you can kind of like move on a bit. The second half of the movie is a lot stronger, but the like look, it is a
Saw
dystopia and it's
Roth,
trying to be
Thorne.
horrible, so it's very effective at that.
yeah. I just like how he just like when he gets the investigation for the killed CEO of Soylent, which is starts to unravel the whole mystery of this place. He decides to
Yeah,
rob the place, and he's just like, "What's this? What's this? Oh, some books, some pencils, some
yeah.
top
It
shelf
was the
brandy, some
oceanographic survey report, which says there is no freaking plankton. So
yeah, which
all
is
of a sudden there's a mystery
uh,
afoot. Like the oceans are dead;
yeah,
they're 100% dead. Like, and that's just the saddest friggin' thing. Jeez, I almost want to cry. See, this is the environment. I'm an environmentalist, so this is friggin' tough stuff for me,
dude.
especially
It was some heavy themes in this for sure. And like the guilt that the people that have come to the realization of like what's actually happening between the dead plankton and what they're actually going to make Soylent out of it starts leading to the CEO willingly letting himself be murdered by a meat hook,
yeah,
which is actually a cat's paw or a uh,
yeah.
crowbar, if you will.
Because he was trying to make it look
And
like he was just a burglar. They didn't want it to look like an
yeah,
assassin, so they didn't want to use a gun. But then they were
yeah. So
stupid
like
because they didn't take anything. He's like, he's not a burglar. He didn't take anything. Everything's still here.
yeah, yeah, it was
So
clearly assassination. And the bodyguard,
yeah,
took the furniture out for a night on the town, so he was home alone to get murdered. And Charleston Heston, he eventually comes through and starts uncovering the mystery. And while he's running around town, Saul figures out what's going on.
yeah,
But they have a nice like dinner meal, which
yeah.
was
Because
kind of
of all the
like
stuff he stole, because he gets
yeah,
to go to this rich place. Like when he's investigating the rich person's apartment, he's just like going through the fridge. He finds booze. He takes a nice pillow. he's just
Grab some
getting all the stuff he
onions,
wants.
celery, a bit of
Yeah.
fresh fruit. There, there's this one scene where they're like, "Did you get it? Did you get what I asked you for?" And it's like it's the girl. I think her name's Sherry.
Cheryl?
Uh,
Cheryl.
Cheryl, yeah.
It's Cheryl, yeah.
Yeah, she ends up getting a piece of meat that does not look like any
Yeah.
piece of meat I've ever seen. Which, like,
And they keep calling it beef.
it has
And
to
I'm
be
like,
human.
yeah.
It has to be human.
I had that thought
right?
as well. Like, where'd they
You
get that
know,
cow?
right? Like, everyone's like saying not seeing like animals and stuff, and like the scenes that really painted the overpopulace for me, it wasn't like the overcrowded, market scene where he had to be a riot cop and all that stuff, which led to the
It's the
scoops
shit job.
being,
He's like, oh, by the way, you're on riot today because he was pissed at him.
yeah, yeah, right, because he's
Because he wouldn't be
uncovering the
crooked.
thing, but yeah, he wouldn't be
He
crooked, and
wants him
he's
to sign
uncovering
this
the mystery
confession
of
that,
the shit.
yeah. He's like, there is no mystery here. Just sign this. He's like, no, you sign it.
Yeah,
I'm not signing it. Like, no one wants to sign this, like, to end the case.
of course not, because they're all
But
getting paid. They're getting paid well enough to not be basically sleeping on stairwells, like huddled
every
massively
staircase
on other
is so
people.
lined with people. Yeah, to walk down them, like it happens a bunch of times in the movies. He has to grab the railings and just sort of jump over as many as he can. It's
Yeah.
it's and like so they're one of the lucky ones because he's a cop, so they have an apartment. So every building still has the apartments that it would have, but every hallway and every staircase is just lined with people that don't have homes. It's funny they don't break in and try to take the apartments and stuff, but I guess there's like a some sort of
Well, there's
social
basically a landlord or some such with an AK
in the rich
or
people place there was.
I would say even not in the rich people places, like even just in any general building, like even in uh uh Charlton
Well, they have
Heston's
the
building.
well much
There was a guy. Well, no,
with the
remember because
gun.
he was going into his apartment with the
They
food,
have a
right?
guard. Each building has like a guard with a gun to make sure
Yeah, I think
people
those
that
are
don't live there
basically like
can't get
the
in.
building landlords. I don't know if they're
That
like,
could be.
paid
Well,
guards.
it's like in the Star Trek episode. Um, it's that
I
same
wouldn't be
way. There's
surprised
always
if
like
this film was like
a guy or three or four guys. Yeah, I think that's really influenced that Star Trek episode. But they're just guarding every building, and if you walk by, they're just like, "We're all full up here. Like, keep walking." You know.
yeah,
But
this this shootout scene
so
was great.
yeah, he goes to a church, which is another crazy scene. Like you think it's crowded in the other buildings. The church is just because like everyone's sick almost too. So it's just people on top of people, and they're all sick or like crying, and it's
And
in the
like the introduction to the church alone was just like he like comes across a dead woman and he's like, "Oh, hey," and then he like he starts to like move her a bit, or like it seems like he's patting her down, and then he just like removes this like rope that's on her wrist that's attached to a kid. It's just like a little baby. And he just like picks it up and then he goes inside, and that's when you realize it's a church.
yeah,
Or at least
it's
that's for me when I
gut-wrenching stuff
realized it was a
too.
church. I was just like,
Mm.
"Oh." And then then you're like, "Oh man, she was trying to make it to the church and she didn't, but the kid kind of did." Now it's just like pass it off to like the sister, and they gotta like, and like the priest is just like traumatized. He's just walking around. He's like,
It's
"Gotta,
because he
gotta
knows
make room."
the secret of
He
Soylent
knows
Green
the secret.
because someone confessed
Yeah.
it in confession.
It wasn't
So
anyone. It was the CEO of Soylent
yeah,
Green. So
yeah,
earlier, the CEO of Soylent Green got to the church to confess, his sins and his truth, which is what is
yeah.
Soylent Green
And man,
actually is.
the actor that plays that priest looked like traumatized, and like he was friggin'
So
that was crazy.
traumatized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So there's a lot of good performances in this. Um. So we go back to the street, and everyone's trying to get their Soylents and their fresh new Soylent Green, and they run out. so that's when the crowd riots and the bulldozers come in and start scooping up people. Yeah.
Yeah, we got it right here.
The supply of Soylent Green has been exhausted. Return to your home.
They freak out. They freak out so hard.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Soylent Green.
He has a 2-year backlog of unsolved murders. Now he's on a case that must be solved.
You know what's funny though? Well, not funny, but well done. Is I found, even though we
Thorne's
both
private
knew
library.
what Soylent Green was, if you're watching this movie
Mhm.
for the first time, I got the impression because I was kind of immersed in the movie. It's really good. Um,
It did a really good job of immersing you in the movie. Like I got pretty
and
into it. I was like, okay, yeah.
yeah, but it doesn't really lean hard into what Soylent Green was. Like you could watch this movie for the first time not knowing and be surprised at the end, which is a thing I don't think they do as well in modern movies. They just hang a lantern on everything, and everything just becomes obvious. But in this, I don't think they do that. Oh, that's my favorite, one of my favorite scenes. So that scene, and we're not quite there
Absolutely.
yet, but
No, not quite
um,
there yet.
fantastic scene. So yeah, that happens with the bulldozers and everything. So then Roth takes, and there's a lot of scenes here in the apartment, Cheryl's apartment and stuff, but I don't really like any of those scenes. She keeps
Well,
convincing him to
so
stay with like hot showers and stuff.
well, I mean, to be fair, like if you never had a hot shower or
Oh, I'd be there too.
yeah, like she was offering him like heavenly riches that he's only
Yeah,
ever conceived about. And like I'll admit like so yeah,
those
he
scenes
the
just went
whole
on a bit
chaos
long.
of the city. Yeah, the scene went on a bit long. It's just like the whole chaos was like all right, there's the chaos of the riot and people not getting the food and he's almost getting assassinated and he tries to chase down who it is and it gets
He's
away
being
and
chased.
he's
He gets
finding out more
shot.
clues. Oh, did he get shot? Oh, yeah, I guess he did get shot, eh?
He gets shot in the
Um,
leg, and then he has that shootout, and then he goes to the church. But that's like at the very end. Um,
right. But he
so he
also
takes
like
the
before that kind
yeah
of happens, he visits her and has their whole like forced love scene for the most part, and then
yeah.
yeah, she ropes him in with like showers, good food,
So
riches, more sex, all that stuff.
so Roth kind of wants to go out on a good note. He's had a nice meal of actual food, and feels like he's been around too long, and especially now that he's figured out what, or I don't know. I guess he doesn't know what the secret of Soylent Green is, but he knows there's a conspiracy there. But so
I
there's
mean,
this place you
Saul.
can go. Saul Roth, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's
so
called
you can go to this place and you
called-
drink your poison, and you have like 20 minutes before it kills you. But in that 20 minutes, they let you listen to like the music you want to listen to and see scenes of the Earth the way it was. And after the just how horrible everything in this movie looks, that scene brings a tear to your eye. And it's of course it's playing one of my favorite songs ever. It's playing Beethoven's Pastoral, which
it was
is it's
so crazy
amazing.
good.
And
Yeah,
then
just like here you get to watch
Thorne
this
runs, yeah. So
basically this
and
whole
there's like
sequence of
they're
life.
showing you like the waves crashing, and there's deer and birds and trees, and it's just beautiful. Yeah, this,
Yeah.
and you're just He's just like look at him, and so he's seen this before. So to him, it's just like coming home before he dies.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
believe they
Thorne
call
walks
this
in
place
on it.
home care. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
he walks in because he figures out that, he's gonna
He knows
offer
what Saul's
something
gonna
to
do,
try and
and
stop it. Yeah.
he's trying to save his friend.
Tries to stop it.
And but it was too late because before he got there, he already drank the stuff. Um,
Yeah,
but
this
so he
was this
sees
was
this
the
video and
moment that
hears the
really
music.
drove it home. Yeah, this is the moment
Yeah,
for
me
me that
too.
really
It's my
drove it home.
favorite scene in the movie. So Thorne's watching this stuff too, and Saul sees him. He's like, "Hey, buddy, like I'm glad you're here. It's really sweet." And he's just like, "Can you believe it? How beautiful it is?" And Thorne's
I see
crying,
it.
and he's like, "No, I can't. How could I have known?" Like he's like, "All your explanations, everything." He's just like, I can't even fathom how beautiful everything was, and that we let it be destroyed. Like it's
Yeah.
that's a top tier intense moment in any movie. That is a great scene. Like what a
How did it
last
come to
scene in an
this?
acting career. That's Edward G. Robinson's last scene as an actor in a
I
to
Dude, yeah. I'd
to
like
go
to
out,
know
man.
that like
What a
he was probably leaning on the fact that he's like, I'm actually gonna die, so I'm gonna give it all. And he did. And apparently this guy is like, I don't, to be honest, don't know anything really about Edward G. Robinson. From what I like have picked up since watching this film, the dude was a huge star and
he
apparently
was
had a huge
very
movie
famous.
career.
But he didn't
Yeah.
look like this. Like he wasn't bearded and stuff. He was a clean shaven
No,
guy
he was
like
like
everyone
clean
was
shaven.
back
He
then.
looks like a real tough guy. Like his younger self. He was like pretty like handsome, like cool looking dude. You
Super
know.
famous. Yeah.
Mm.
Um and he is probably the strongest actor in this movie. And there's good actors. Like Brock Peters is in this, but he doesn't have a his Brock Peters is actually great in all of his scenes as the police chief. Um
Mm.
love me some Brock Peters. Um so yeah, that scene happens and it's freaking amazing. And then like the final chase scene sort of happens where Thorne's getting shot at and he gets shot in the leg and he's having this little shootout and he runs into the church. No, he goes to the Soylent factory. Yeah, he
Yes, the
goes to the
Soylent
church at the
Factory.
end. So before he gets shot, actually, he goes to the Soylent factory. I skipped over that. It's like the whole thing in the movie. So I think I have a shot of the factory here. Oh look, there he is. Ah, cheers to you, Saul. um, no, I guess I didn't get that image. Oh well. Anyway, so he goes to the Soylent factory and they see him. So they try to stop him, the people that work there. And he's running and jumping over trays. But he sees the bodies. So, like, all these trucks, like, tons of trucks. Like, there's just constantly a stream of, like, ambulance looking vans kind of thing pulling into the factory with all the dead bodies. And he sees them. They just throw them into this machine, like on a conveyor belt, yeah, like that, and come out, and the other end
Yeah,
is Soylent Green. So he finds out what Soylent Green is, and he's been eating it, like everybody's been eating it. Yeah, there it is. Like this is so crazy.
it's pretty fucked. Yeah, they're just like, yep, this is how we're disposing
This
of
is a,
people.
this is a really good movie. Um, Probably my favorite Charlton Heston movie. I like this better than Planet of the Apes. I think.
I think I would agree too. Yeah, like it was a pretty decent little like shootout here. Like it was
Yeah,
relatively like there
yeah.
was heft to like the
But he
like
kind of gets out
fear
of there
of
without getting shot. He gets shot in the street outside.
surprisingly, yeah. You know,
Yeah,
he
he
gets to
managed
watch
to
a
get out
man
of the
get
factory.
crushed by a bulldozer.
Oh yeah.
Throw a dump truck in there.
But yeah, so then he runs shot to the church, and there's a shootout in the church.
Church
Quite the
shots.
fight scene, actually. It's not really a shootout; it's more of a close combat fight. It kind of reminded me of that fight scene in Lobies, right? uh,
Yeah, yeah,
but he ends up like killing his attacker, and then the other cops and Brock Peters and stuff show up, and they drag him out to get medical attention or whatever, and he's just like, that's the famous line, Soylent Green is people, Soylent
people.
Green is people.
We're the
Like,
greatest people.
oh man, that's such a
You
famous
gotta
line
tell
and
them.
he delivers that
You
well.
gotta tell them. Yeah,
You gotta tell
he's
him.
just like
And
dragged
that's what,
away.
yeah, and that's the end. They cut, the movie's over, because that's how they do
Yeah,
it.
they do a freeze frame and then they like creep off, and yeah, it was an interesting ending.
So
It was a
that
flat
was,
ending. I felt, but yeah.
yeah, well, it had the great line. That's all it needed. Like, Soylent Green is people, you gotta tell them in the movie. It made sense in this movie. This the cut. It's like wasn't as
Mm.
bad of a like abrupt end as like American Werewolf in London had, for example. Um, so that was our
Well, it's
plot
basically like the
storytelling.
dog. Yeah.
What was your
Which scene
favorite
was I
scene,
saying hold
Murphy?
up?
We already talked about it. Was yours mine?
Yeah.
In the room with the music
The
and
The scene with the basically the going home scene at the home scene,
Yeah.
the home care center, that whole thing. The scene
I had a
where
tear going down my face, man. It totally did what it wanted to do.
yeah, the scene where basically he's creeping over all the sleeping people, and sometimes like watch where you're stepping, and you're
Yeah,
just
it's like,
like,
hey, that only happens once
are,
actually, and
do you-
that's why it's funny. Usually he gets over them pretty
it
well,
ha-
but this one time, but he's like, asshole.
I think it happens twice in the film, but I can't remember.
Maybe
But
it's
yeah,
twice.
um, but it made me it made me think of the economy. The amount it was like $210 for basically a meal of food just for the rich folk, And I'm just like, they're not
Mm,
far off there. There's also scenes where
no,
people were like wearing masks and stuff in the market area, which was just like
me
they're
too.
not far off there either. This is like,
Yeah,
okay. So yeah, there's a lot of scenes that held up. I just felt
the
like the ending.
separation of elite and the rest of us is pretty on the nose. That was pretty
Yeah.
good for 2022. It's just we're not
Yeah,
eating people
they
yet.
really nailed it in what, 73 this movie came out in?
Yeah, so they
Yeah.
were shooting for like 50 years, 49 years in the future.
Yeah. So yeah, those are my scenes that would hold up.
What was your favorite performance?
Um it's kind of a toss up between Heston and Robinson, Saul, I think I'd have to give it to Heston because like he really kind of holds it together. But it's definitely like the last dying age of basically like his style of filmmaking. It was just good enough to be surprisingly good, but not too, surprisingly cheesy or terrible.
Yeah, I would agree with that, except I'd just flip it. I liked Edward G. Robinson's performance. For a final performance of a career, I thought he nailed it. Like he was great and
Yeah.
very whimsical in the scenes where he's like listening to the music in like back in their apartment and they're eating and he's like eating his little celery and they're being so extravagant about all these just like a raw piece of celery. uh, yeah, that one. And the setting aesthetic, I think we said it. It's really good.
Yeah,
The
it reminded
dystopia
me.
is
Yeah,
gritty, misery everywhere. They must have hired a lot of extras because that scene where like the scoops come in, there's a lot of people there, and they're all doing very specific things. So this would have had to take some pretty tight direction, I think.
apparently they were doing a lot of the street scenes on MGM's like derelict backlots that were going at a sale at the time, which I believe is one of my movie morsels, but I'll
Let's
get into
do it.
more detail on that. Well, we're gonna do a little Murphy's movie morsels.
Oh, look at that! I like it. Morsels of popcorn are also delicious.
Alrighty, so Soylent Green's 1973. Got a few tasty jams out of this one. At around 8 minutes, the video game in Simonson's apartment, Computer Space, from 1971, was one of the first coin-operated video games manufactured by Nutting Associates in 1971 and designed by Nolan Bushnell, who later founded Atari and designed Pong in 1972. The video game was painted white for the movie, but the original color was either yellow, red, or blue.
The cabinet looked cool, but look, that was a bad projection because even in a dystopia, video games would be better than that in 2022.
Oh yeah, yeah. They missed
That
the
game
mark
was
on that
awful,
one
like
by a huge
worse
margin.
than an old Atari game. Like it was bad.
Yeah, yeah. It was rough. At around 22 minutes, the pencils that Thorne gives Saul are Palomino Black Wings, distinguished by the gold color flat eraser end. These are highly sought after high grade pencils. Notable users of Black Wings include writer John Steinbeck, animator Chuck Jones, author Truman Capote, composer John Mercer, composer Quincy Jones, and author E.B. White and animator Don Bluth.
So you're saying Bugs Bunny's drawn with a black wing?
It's true. It's true.
Hmm.
At around 33 minutes, the scene where Thorne and Roth share a meal of fresh food. It was not originally in the script, but was ad-libbed by Charlton Heston and Edward G. Robinson at director Robert Fleischer's request. So they just kind of put that one on the fly,
Good addition.
which
That's one of the better
admittedly
scenes
was
as well.
yeah, that was one of my standout scenes too that I kind of forgot. That would have been a rewind
Yeah.
moment if we missed that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that one of the scoops is another great scene. And
Scoops
even the scene in the
Scoops is
church is just
there's a lot of memorable scenes in this movie. It's not just the ending. It's like knowing the ending of this film is literally like 10% of
it
what the
was a
film really
novel
has to
first.
offer. Well, yeah, I would like to read that novel, honestly.
But like it was
Um,
meant for a movie because the imagery is just so memorable.
got a few more movie morals too.
Yep.
The one of the first films to address greenhouse gases stars three stalwart members of the Republican Party: Charlton Heston, Chuck
Yeah.
Connors, and Joseph Cotton, who are lifelong active supporters of the GOP. All three called President Ronald Reagan their friend.
Look, there's a lot of things I've never really liked about Charlton Heston.
Soylent,
You know,
the Soylent
he's
Green
also like the
manufacturing.
biggest NRA guy ever.
Yeah, that he is. He really likes some gunsies.
Some
The
guns.
Soylent Green
That's why he liked this
manufacturing
movie. They're like, well, you get to
facility.
shoot at some people. He's like, all right, I'll do your friggin' hippie environmentalism movie. As long as I can shoot someone.
Yeah. The Soylent Green manufacturing facility is the Chevron oil refinery and power plant in El Segundo, California. The chase
It
scene
looked like a
during the
real plant.
climax.
It
Well,
sure did.
yeah, for sure. They were doing what they had to. The chase scene during the climax has no dialogue because the writer Stanley R. Greenberg didn't want it to become an action movie. A
Yeah,
clause in the
he
film's
did.
contract said no dialogue could be added or edited, so they made the entire chase silent.
It worked. I loved that silent chase.
Yeah, it worked for me too.
And I agree. Like, you don't want
I
them quipping back and forth. Not in a movie like
yeah,
this.
yeah, true.
This is a
No,
serious
okay,
movie.
and yeah, our final two-ish
Yep.
three. Knowing that he was dying, Charlton Heston brought Edward G. Robinson a variety of wines and cheeses from all over the world each day Robinson was on set for his scenes.
Oh, he was dying in real life? Oh, I didn't know
He
that.
was, yeah, which were all shot first. Robinson died at the age of 79 on January 26, 1973, 4 months
What?
before the film's release in May 1973.
Oh my god, it just makes that scene so much more heart-wrenching, man. What?
Yeah,
This movie's
yeah,
crazy. This is an
yeah.
unsung classic.
It's
Well, maybe it's
truly,
not. Like, it's
truly
thought of as a classic, but I think maybe it's not quite held up enough.
truth. We're going to get to that jurisdiction here in a moment.
Mm.
Leah Taylor Young, Cheryl, and Stephen
Mhm.
Young, Gilbert, were the only stars of the film who lived to see
Who's
the
Gilbert?
year. Who's Gilbert again?
Oh, I know Gilbert's the guy who runs the Rich Building. He comes in, he
Right,
starts
yes.
smacking around the ladies and stuff.
Right. But he with the red jacket, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
him and Cheryl were the only stars of the film to live to see the real year of 2022. And yeah, as the film's opening prologue states, the year
They must have been
2022
pleased.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's like, oh, guys, it
Like, this
didn't
isn't
turn
bad.
out that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, 44 million was the population in the prologue, but only 8.4 million in city New York today. So yeah, those are the movie morsels for Soylent Green.
Very nice, Murphy. Rewatchability. Yeah, I'd watch this movie again.
Yeah.
In fact, I will watch this movie again.
Yeah, that's an easy rewatchable movie for sure. I
And
wouldn't
as you
mind
said,
giving
I'd like to read
another.
that book as well. I'd
Yeah,
read
I
it.
want to read the book and rewatch it again and see what they had and what they potentially changed and stuff like that.
Mm.
Yeah, solid rewatchable movie for sure.
And the final question we ask here, does it hold up? Indeed, it does. It's one of the best movies I've
Easy.
seen in a while.
Yeah, easy
Yep.
easy hold up for me. Um,
Yep.
Easily the best film of this rotation.
Oh, well, okay, it is a better movie than Medicine Man, but maybe I don't like it more than Medicine Man. Because I've watched Medicine Man probably like 20 times. In fact, I didn't have time to watch it before this podcast, but it doesn't matter. I have every line memorized in that movie. And I'm going to watch it after this podcast so all cards on the table there.
Well, all right. So somebody didn't do their homework
I
then,
didn't.
and I
I don't.
feel
Oh,
like
trust me,
their
I've seen it 20
rose-colored
times.
glasses are a biased review towards what Medicine Man probably
No,
truly is
because
today.
there's nothing but complete memorization glasses on. Trust me, I even know like the music that's playing in every scene. I've seen this movie probably more than I've seen any other movie.
Some
Actually, there's no
awful
probably. This
music,
is true.
sir.
What? All
Some
those like
awful
the like
music.
no man. There's like some nice like
Yes, the
more tribal
goofy
beats and
intro
stuff.
music.
Well, it's like it's a '90s movie. '90s movies all started
Okay.
off like that. So did Matinee. Like they all start off with that doo doo like like Gremlins and they all do. Gremlins is
Well,
an '80s movie.
clearly, you know what we're talking about now as we're getting into Act Two, Medicine
Yeah.
Man.